Welcome, everyone. I hope you all had a great summer. I missed the memo about summer. It was really hectic, really busy, but toward an admirable goal. We have students back on campus, in classrooms, lots of activity, and it's so wonderful to be back in person, even if a little scary. But there's just so much energy on the main campus, and we're really excited to be back. We were hoping that this event would be in person as well, but we're trying to be careful as we open back up and not take too many unnecessary risks. We are planning to have an in-person event next month, where we're going to have an opening dedication for the Stephen Dorfman's Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We're going to do it at Hub 101. We're going to have a ribbon cutting. We're going to show off the new sign that has Steve's name in the center, and we're going to celebrate Steve's generous gift and what we're planning on doing with it. So it's my memory is, what date is it, Kristen?
The 20th.
The 20th.
Wednesday the 20th at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so we'll let you know when when it's time to sign up. And we have as our guest speaker that evening, it is an Entrepreneur Speaker Series event. Our guest speaker is going to be Laura Moreno. Laura is a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, had a career in industry, was a vice president at NASDAQ, understands capital markets super well, and Laura is going to be our guest speaker next month. We are going to do fewer events. We're going to space them out a little differently. They're not necessarily going to be on the same Wednesday of every month, but we'll give you plenty of notice when we have them scheduled. And we're working on a speaker for November as well. So I'm thrilled to have Robbie Nock opening our speaker series for the school year. He's doing something really interesting, and I'll give him a chance to introduce himself once we get going. But I want to do what's become a tradition in this Entrepreneur Speaker Series. Any community exists to help each other. So we always take some time at the very beginning of the series to give anybody who's on the Zoom conference a chance to raise their hands and give us an elevator pitch about who they are, what they're working on, and how they might need help. And conversely, if you're a member of our community who has skills and abilities that are of value to entrepreneurs and you want to help, please make sure to introduce yourself and tell us who you are. So we've been doing this spontaneously. We used to ask for people to tell us in advance what they were going to say, but we haven't. It's kind of worked when we just ask people to step up. Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves and share what they're working on? Oh, in 1 minute. It's like an elevator pitch. Bill Pratt.
Sure. On the sidelines, I've become one of the founders and founding board members of the Ventura County Industry Council. And I just want to throw that out there so folks are aware of it. This is being midwifed by Peter Zerhut of Haas Automation and some other good folks, including Mike Riley at Integrity Bio. So stay tuned, and we'll be looking for more industry partners as we're moving forward.
Wonderful, thank you. Do they have, if they have a website, you want to put the URL in the chat box so that anyone in the conference can.
We're not quite there yet.
Okay, we'll share it when you have it.
Yeah, we're working in collaboration with the EDC VC.
Wonderful.
We're in good hands.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. Who else would like to introduce themselves? Max Zadeh.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a new member, Max Zadeh. So
I'm a co-founder and CEO of FlexWork, which is an employee scheduling product for nurses in hospitals. And then our new idea is called Flastio. It's slightly different than what we are doing with FlexWork, and it's about an online portfolio for engineering students to be able to put their work forward and proof of work online when they apply for a job to be able to land their dream job. So thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. You know, now that I think of it too, if you want to put your contact information in the chat box, so anyone who can help has your email address, that'd be great. Gerhard Apfeltaler, would you like to introduce yourself?
Who is that, right? So, hi, my name is Gerhard. I work for Mike here at Cal Lutheran. Maybe it's not a pitch, it's just a little promotion for another event that we're having next week on the 16th. The School of Management here at Cal Lutheran holds one of its annual signature events, the Executive Talent Management Forum. And this year we are presenting on an exciting topic that has haunted us all for the last 18 months, the rise of fluid work. So if anybody is interested in the topic or in general aspects of talent management, I'll post a link to the event. It's virtual, it's free, and it's great. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Gerhard. We both work for Susan Wood. That's Susan. She's probably in the wait. She might be the person in the waiting room. Who else would like to go? That's all. It must be we're starting slow. But we do. If you come back for Erin Brady.
Hey there. I'm Erin. I actually work at Nuance, which is just across the street from Cal Lutheran, and we were just acquired by Microsoft. So I'm happy to make any introductions there as it may benefit anyone. I also teach digital marketing, the boot camp at Pepperdine. So if anyone needs any assistance or would like to talk to any of my students, they're always looking to help other entrepreneurs. I'd be happy to make that connection as well.
Excellent. Across from Cal Lutheran and TO, or one of the
TO.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you. Would anyone else like to go? Okay, we'll start light.
I have a follow-up to Aaron's. I have a question for Aaron.
Go ahead.
Hi, Aaron. I'm Kristen, and I run the programs for Hub 101, which is Cal Lutheran's startup incubator and co-working space. And one of our programs, I think, would be probably a good fit for some digital marketing. I think there might be some collaboration there. So I will send you my details in the chat.
Wonderful.
I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, going once, going twice, done. Thank you, everyone who contributed. We've really missed the interaction of being in person, and while this is an unacceptable substitute, we're really looking forward to being back in person as well. Okay, so let's get to our featured speaker. I've had a couple of conversations with Robbie.
Hey Mike, Kara, I think, is trying to get your attention. Sorry about that.
Oh, Kara, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kara.
Hi, no, I didn't want to cut you off. I just
No, please.
mentioned you're going to be transitioning back to on campus. Will you still provide some virtual options? Because I'm an alumni, but I'm now in Denver.
Denver. We likely will.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Especially, yeah, you're by no means, you have set a record for distance.
Oh, I didn't figure.
Last year we had a lady, she's in Iran, and she would, she's not here, is she? No. She would wake up like in the middle of the night to watch these events live. And we will probably continue some sort of live streaming. If for some reason we can't, or it doesn't work, sometimes we have technical difficulties, we post all of the recordings on the School of Management's YouTube channel. There's an Entrepreneur Speaker Series playlist, and there are 60 of them now. We've done 60 of these. So I'd encourage you not just to show up for the one we have, but to go back and look at some of the talks that we've done in the past, because they're pretty special as a collection.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So on to our main speaker. This is one of my favorite topics. I love that term creator, and I hear it used more than frequently. Creator economy. I think it's one of those words that really we're just beginning to understand the depth of what it means, and I think it redraws the boundaries for what a creator is, and I differentiate that word from creative. You've got artists and graphic designers and who we traditionally think of creators, but then we also have engineers who can be creators as well, and business people who can be creators, and it's a very important part of this fluid workforce that is kind of becoming the norm. So Robbie comes to us from the Pasadena ArtCenter, which has a wonderful entrepreneurship program. He's my counterpart at the ArtCenter, and I can't wait to hear you talk about this topic, Robbie, so please take it away.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Kristen and Gerhard and everybody from Cal Lutheran that makes this series possible. Very pleased to be here. And I've prepared some slides to share to keep things interesting and to give you some of the perspective that I have on this new and emerging and evolving area around the creator economy. So I will share my screen. Give me a second here. And you should all be able to see that. And
Yep.
With that, we're good to go. So Robbie Nock, and I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship and Professional Practice at ArtCenter. And I've actually been at the college for about 8 years. And as we've evolved over these last 8 and probably longer period of time, the role between business and the broad world of creativity, art, design, entertainment has evolved rapidly. And the intersections between the creative side of the world and the business side of the world are becoming more and more blurred. And I think that's part of the reason that I'm here today, part of my career and the path to share with you some of that background, and then also to try to give you a little bit of perspective on where I see some of this work and world going. This by no means is an exhaustive analysis, and I'm going to touch on a few different areas, both related to design, to the creative economy, and as Mike pointed out, the very significant distinction between the creative economy and the creator economy. Let's make sure the slides work here. So broadly, I've got five sections. They're going to be exciting and fast. So don't worry about, 5 boring areas. These are going to be really pretty exciting. And my background, I think, paints a kind of a clearer picture as to why I'm in this position, in this space, and what my point of view might be in having some of these broader views on the creator economy. So just give you a little sense of where I've come from and where I might be going. So I start here with a slide that shows the first 2 cameras that I owned and used as a photographer at the very beginning of my career. The first was actually given to me as a gift when I was in high school, and it was a original film camera, the Canon A1, an incredible piece of technology, and it inspired me to pursue photography as a career. Little did I realize what kind of path that would take me on. And in 2003, I got my hands on first sort of lower end consumer digital camera that by all means was exactly the same as the Canon A1, but had a completely different underlying technical system. And as you know, the photography industry has really radically changed. And I think photography and communication via image really is the kind of core of where the creator economy is going. But for me, it actually was a major shift because instead of continuing pursuing photography, I ended up being much more interested in the underlying technology, not as an engineer, not as somebody building sensors or lenses or camera bodies or working in industrial design, but really in the way that that technology was changing the way in which we communicated. So photography took me from really the world of images to the world of music and immersive performance and entertainment, into the world of art and technology and design, and through that into business, entrepreneurship and innovation, and now really looking at education and infrastructure and policy, connecting all of these areas. Went to the University of Edinburgh, studied English literature. I'm very pleased to see the Cal Lutheran community so passionate about entrepreneurship, because I think the humanities and sciences really has an underlying value within startups and the business ecosystem that cannot be overlooked. These are two images. One is a student newspaper, which I was the photography editor for, and then a more recent image of a photographer that I worked for who was really pioneering digital commercial photography, a fellow named Richard Mountney. This work took me all over Scotland and eventually to London, where I was mostly involved in the world of nightclubs and the music side of entertainment. So building immersive experiences that went alongside audio performances. It was the early days of all of that type of work, and the technology required to be able to project and manage both lighting and video and audio simultaneously in a way that was coherent and part of the experience for an audience member was rapidly evolving. And that took me from London actually to Los Angeles, where I started working on larger productions. The image below on the left side is a performance for Timberlake, and I was in charge of programming the LED animation that was in connection to the projected visuals. And all of that work was fun and exciting, but kept on pointing me back towards the technology, back towards the underlying systems. And I ended up working digitizing the catalog of Sam Francis, who is an oil painter and actually painted in acrylic and on paper as well, in Los Angeles. And he's most of the world's contemporary fine art collections. That transition from digital, really from the image into the world, was a huge step, and took me to Cal Arts, which is a college in Santa Clarita that was founded by Disney, which was based on the premise of collaboration and cross-disciplinary theater, performance, art and design, animation. And I really became more and more interested in the actual experience of the world through technology. And there you can see some of the work that I was making then, very much on the art side of the spectrum. That work, along with my background in photography and media production, allowed me to collaborate and connect with a huge number of amazing artists and designers and interesting folks in Los Angeles. This is a installation for Judy Chicago and the Getty as part of the Pacific Standard Time exhibition quite a few years back in 2012. And that experience and the kind of focus on the space itself, the space around an artwork, the space not just of the installation or the gallery, but in fact, all of the world that connected the gallery to the city and to the people and to the kind of community of where artwork lives and where creative experiences might be had, pointed me towards the emerging world of software development and applications. And I founded a business called Signpost, and we had a variety of spin-outs on the core of our application, which was a map sharing software. And this was designed to allow users to create personal maps of their favorite places in the world and share those as personal journeys so that you could step into the shoes of your friend in Paris and see the world through their eyes. This was early in that world of experiential media and augmented reality. And I was coming at it from the point of view of an artist and a photographer, and not as somebody coming from a business school background or from a technology company. And it was eye-opening to see how hard it was to raise money as a creative founder. And so that changed my focus a little bit again. And I ended up working for CalArts, my alma mater, helping them establish a new career center that was focused on a much broader picture of creative entrepreneurship. What does it really mean to be an artist and designer in business in the world today? And what support do colleges need to provide in order to make that pathway possible? So I helped CalArts establish its Disney Center for Life and Work. And that took me to ArtCenter in 2014, where I have been ever since. And ArtCenter has been a place where the intersection of business and art and design is core to its ethos and identity. And all of the experience that I had, albeit in different pockets and different places, ultimately resonated very directly with the ArtCenter community. And I've been very lucky to grow through and with ArtCenter, and to have built much of the current entrepreneurship ecosystem in partnership with incredible faculty and a leadership team. So that's my background, gives you a sense of who I am, where I'm coming from, why I might have a perspective on all of this, and why that perspective might be coming from a variety of different locations. Core to this is really the understanding of why design is essential for business. And this is something that I spend most days advocating for and tirelessly shouting about, because I strongly believe that design radically reduces the risk for new businesses and for established businesses that might be undergoing a product iteration or evolution, because it ensures feasibility and product market fit. And it does so in a very unique way that most of the world's Fortune 100 companies understand and come to ArtCenter to recruit for. So our talent ends up serving large and multinational corporations who really see that design is a core part of this ability to navigate towards a market and a customer in a way that is not always intuitive to the core business function of all organizations. And these are some of the companies that rely on ArtCenter year over year to pull talent from and to really help define the future. So just a brief kind of moment of making the case for why design radically reduces the cost of bringing new products and services to market is because it actually allows for a much more integrated iterative process. So traditionally, the more time you spend, the more money you invest, the more complex your business is, and the more risk you undertake. And I believe that if you integrate design into the core of your organization, into the core of your team, it reduces cost because it allows for you to pivot without relying on a consultancy or an external entity to guide you in that path. So it allows you to iterate more quickly, to produce more versions, more A/B testing, more prototypes, and develop closer and deeper insights from your customers. Now, traditionally, teams tend to not prioritize design. They tend to see design as a secondary effect, a color or a surface treatment or a choice of type. But I would argue that, and there's plenty of research to back this up. In fact, a McKinsey report in 2018 that looked at design as a differentiator for the most highest performing companies. And it's clear each step of the way that if you see design as the interface between your team and the needs of your customer, and you see that interface not just as the end product that you're selling, but as all of the pieces that allow you to produce that product, your underlying brand and logo, the packaging of what it might be that you're selling, the presentation materials that you might be bringing to an investor or to a community of partners, to your communications material, to your way you represent yourself in photography and video, in your social media and marketing materials. Design has a footprint in all of these areas. And it's incredibly important for the conversation around the creator economy to understand that content is a result of design, and that design is not just the outcome. It's not just the water flowing from the aqueduct, but it is in fact the aqueduct itself. And when you make that leap, particularly as a company that is undergoing an R&D process, or as a startup that's looking at bringing something new to the market, and you invest in design, you have a much stronger capability to both design your end outcome for your customer and the system that produces that outcome. And this is where design is far beyond the typical expectations around brand and logo and layout and the kind of basics. The true power of design is in process, and that is an incredibly important thing for entrepreneurs and startups to understand. So, seems we've frozen here. So then the next key point, and this is what ties into the overall conversation today about the creator economy, is to clarify that content is a result of design. That content stems from a design capability and the overarching activities that designers do on behalf of companies. And that is connecting the look and feel and experience of your product or service with the way in which that is communicated, marketed, advertised, shared, retweeted to your customers and to your stakeholders. And this is an important distinction for the creator economy, and where we're going with the creator economy is that content is more than marketing. It is more than the placement of marketing. It is the actual experience of your business. And I fundamentally believe that designers have a real advantage when it comes to thinking about producing content in the service of business goals. So this brings me to the second thesis for today, which is that effective design generates effective content. And that may not seem totally intuitive, but I'll give you a little bit more of a detail there. And we go back to the question about reduction of risk. So one of the key things that businesses get wrong, and reason that businesses go bankrupt, or the businesses that startups fail, is that they miss the key insight from their customer. They miss that unique and very critical understanding of what's driving the behavior of those that are purchasing the product. And that could be any kind of product. It could be an educational product, could be a device, could be, you know, a treatment, could be a service, could be an experience. And when you begin to iteratively test content in the same way that you iteratively test a prototype or an underlying business assumption, you start to generate a very, very useful feedback loop. And that feedback loop helps you understand whether or not you're on track to meeting the needs of your customer, to communicating those to those needs, and to achieving product market fit, both today and in the future. So this then leads to the third thesis, and the tie-in to the role that the creator economy plays in all of this is that businesses that understand how to design content will outperform competitors. Now, that is clear at every level to me, because it is both at a large corporate level and at the startup level, that building that capacity and capability into the core of your founding team, into the C-suite or whoever is making the decisions, that those that prioritize communicating with the customer through the emerging channels, through the creation of content and the creator economy, will continue to succeed. So part of the reason for calling the creator economy 2.0 today and looking at 1.0 to 2.0 is to kind of understand where we're going and where we might be ending up in the next couple of years ahead. And obviously we've entered into a race, a direct-to-consumer race, where everybody is looking at how do we get to the audience with as few barriers as possible. How do we go direct to consumer? And media companies are doing this, healthcare companies are doing this, restaurants are doing this. Everybody wants to communicate directly. And in this race, creators, those that make up the creator economy, are miles ahead because they are in the hands of the customer and the consumer. They are in the hearts and minds. They are right in your face when you open a social media app or when you watch YouTube. Some, evolving insights into this space, which is hard to calculate. And, you can look at a variety of factors, what would constitute the creator economy market. I would tend to say it is both the creators and the platforms, but as you'll see, the creators are actually in a separate category because they are really driving the platforms and the businesses that are in service of the creator economy. So a little bit just for term's sake, not everybody is always up to speed on this. So creator derives from content creator and commonly refers to an influencer. So when we're talking about influencer marketing and the creator economy, these words get interchanged. I think creator is an easier word to understand because it directly involves the activity of generating something new and producing that as content. And whether that's on a platform or whether that's through a relationship with an audience in a separate way. So Creator Economy 1.0 looks something like this. Platforms are the major winners. Legacy companies are reliant on platforms to reach audiences and customers. Those platforms we all know as Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Snap and Twitter. And they've evolved from the mid-2000s to today and become very sophisticated, but they've also become kind of bulky. And I think the shift that we're going to see, and we are already starting to see in the shift to Creator Economy 2.0, is that the creators themselves will become the mechanism through which customers and audiences are reached. And they will begin to disintermediate the platforms, and legacy companies will need to have relationships with creators in order to be able to benefit from those dynamics. And this shift from 1.0 to 2.0, it is massive. And of course, the legacy platform companies, not even the legacy companies themselves, the new technology platform companies, which are now old by the relative speed at which this market is emerging, they are doing everything possible to retain control. But it goes a little bit something like this, and we can see a kind of a signal with what happened with Amazon and bookstores and the publishing world. Amazon realized that it could make a lot of efficiencies by taking bookstores out of the equation. And I love bookstores, and Edinburgh has the most bookstores per capita of any city in the world. And the experience of reading in a bookstore is very dear to me. But when we're looking at the trend that Amazon has signaled, we see that the disintermediation that I believe will happen with the platform economy and with the shift to creator economy 2.0 will be very similar to the shift that happened when Amazon disintermediated bookstores, and especially the big bookstores like Barnes and Noble. So the same pattern emerges in that when the creators go direct to customers, everything is disrupted. So, and I'll wrap up here with hopefully with about 15 minutes for Q&A and discussion, or however we would like to use the time, by looking at my perspective on some of the trends, opportunities, and risks. So I think the key question with this shift and with the movement away from the platforms as the aggregators of all content is the question of what happens when influence is decentralized. And when the experience of the creator economy is not solely reliant on Facebook or YouTube, but is happening in smaller and a much more diversified market of players. And what's more, with the kind of swinging pendulum of regulatory, sort of regulatory approaches in the government and the antitrust laws, we're likely to see a breaking apart of these major tech companies, particularly when it comes to the aggregation of content and advertising and the market play. So what can you do? I think there's a variety of lenses to look at this, and they're different depending on which part of the spectrum you fall in. If you're an influencer or a creator already, you're in a great spot to continue to grow and to look at opportunities to directly control the results of the content that you might create. So how to move from TikTok to Patreon to OnlyFans to Substack to any of the emerging platforms that take less for themselves and give more to those that are making the wheels spin. As a startup, I think this goes really to the theses of what I shared earlier, in that you must build in design and content creation into the core capabilities of your business. This isn't true for 100% every startup that exists. A lot of medical devices and pure technology companies might not need to invest heavily in design and content creation, but they need to be paying attention to that, because any opportunity to engage in these platforms with your customer, whatever that customer might be, is critically important. And then the legacy businesses must really start to look at how reliant they are upon these core creator economy 1.0 platforms like Facebook and YouTube, and think about what it means when those platforms are no longer relevant, and how to develop direct relationships with creators, or to build in that capability within their organization directly. And then if you're a platform, what do you do? If you're working for TikTok and you're thinking about the future of where influence will be when it is decentralized, your goal is going to be to try to provide as much value to creators that are currently being served by your platform, that are participating and generating content there, to keep them and retain them. And there already are huge efforts being made on behalf of those existing platforms. So broadly, I think these are some of the areas to look for opportunity. This is not an exhaustive list, but some of the things that are going to be needed in the near and further term. Services for creators, how to help them as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as those that are generating a product, albeit a digital content product. They need legal services, they need financial services, they need operational and business services. They need credit cards, they need forms of financing, they need access to mortgages, they need all kinds of traditional services. And in addition to that, they are going to be looking off platform, because any opportunity to retain control and to benefit from their work without paying the tax to Facebook or Instagram, so to speak, is going to be hugely beneficial. And then I see there being a major opportunity for the recruitment of and partnership with creators for legacy companies. How do organizations build this within their walls, and what are the kind of HR and managerial tools needed to be able to serve a new type of employee whom may not have existed in the past. I then also see helping companies build these creator capabilities internally. So educating companies and doing that in-house, not just pulling it from the external world, but really building it through design, marketing, and that side of a legacy business. And then on the hedge side, platforms are going to be looking to acquire companies that keep creators in their midst. So what is it that can be done for platforms that help them retain control over creator content and continue to make a profit there? And then, of course, the emerging world of NFTs and digital assets becomes a major part of creator economy 2.0 and 3.0, because it is a way in which the actual product of a creator, the digital content itself, can be owned and monetized. So just two little pieces to conclude with here. Content is like cash, and liquidity is essential. So having content that can be used and reused and formulated and reformulated, that is not locked in IP or in other complex partnership relationships, that is owned outright and can be deployed in multiple platforms and in multiple ways, is absolutely essential for having a footprint in this space. And anything that helps all of this move from the screen to personal experience, because the limits of the screen are very clear. And I think we're seeing a shift into a much more distributed, IoT world, where the experience of media, technology, business, products is distributed both with the screen and off the screen. So a few references, and I can share this deck for anybody that's interested afterwards, some places to look at some of the market signals and the scope of what we're talking about here. And that is what I've got for you today. And ultimately, it's a point of discussion and something that is emerging and evolving. And I think depending on your background and perspective, you're going to have a different point of view on how important this is and what role it might play in the future of your business. So thank you, and happy to take questions or discussion as you wish.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Let's give Robbie a virtual round of applause. I got stuck on your opportunity slide. That tends to be where my mind ends up. A lot of the opportunities you identified seem to be what are typically called picks and shovels types of opportunities, right? It's not necessarily about the content or the creator, it's about everything that goes around it. I'm not sure if there's a question in there or not.
Oh,
So we'll go to Bill. Bill politely raised his digital hand. So Bill, you can go first.
Sure. I work in a little bit of a different space. I'm in medical devices. So we're in a business to business relationship as opposed to business consumer. And the platforms like Facebook and Instagram really don't apply to us. We're stuck more in a Google search and maybe a little bit of a LinkedIn world. So I was wondering if you could sort of predict where that's going to go, or maybe where the fertile field may be in terms of what we're going to do, because Google search now, you typically have to swim through the debris of everything Google wants to throw up in front of you. So Google search is getting to be a lot less satisfying when you're really looking for resources, because I work on the operations as well as the design side. And yet when people are looking for the kinds of solutions that we offer, we're in surgical, it's like, how do we disseminate that more effectively? Potentially, surgeons are one group that we sell to, but hospitals are another important group.
Right. So I think, and that's a great question, and particularly for the medical industry and the device industry, I would look at the experience less of the where the business deals are made and done, less in terms of thinking about the platforms as a channel to sell in the B2B approach, but as the kind of underlying space in which the participants in that economy are going to be giving and taking information. So the Google approach is kind of like it's like a dinosaur relative to where the information really is, and finding new and emerging platforms and startups and ways of disseminating information that aren't going to be buried behind a search engine, that may result from relationships and from the connection between individuals at the organization level and what's driving those individuals. So where is your sales team for the med device company getting inspired? Where are they looking for insight into even their sales process, or how they might formulate their outreach to potential customers? That would be the space in which I think a medical device company could really thrive. And there are a lot of startups that I've seen that are looking at how to aggregate content that may not be suitable for a Facebook or an Instagram, a kind of, a consumer market, but that is relevant for the type of customer and the type of relationships that the B2B side that you're looking at might be. And I think nobody's solved that yet. I think that that's a huge opportunity space. I was recently listening to a pitch on a startup that aggregates expert information on particular diagnostics, and it sources those using smart trolling of the internet and capturing of data. And companies like that are going to be where you can find your way into the creator economy, in a B2B space. And I think LinkedIn is very much looking at this and trying to compete, and it's not quite sure what role it plays. But those network-based approaches are critical, I think.
Thank you.
Marina.
Can I say something? It's Preston.
Hi.
We'll go with Marina first, then you, Preston.
All right.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Marina. I'm currently working on a social app for spontaneous activities. So the network strategy is really the one that we're going for. We're looking for new and upcoming platforms. I think that is a good way to diverge from, the mess of even Instagram. I was wondering if one first question, if you have any recommendations on upcoming platforms for like looking at network effects. And then second, I really resonate with the thing you said about creatives and the creators within an organization not being necessarily treated as very important. Have you experienced this yourself? How do you deal with that?
So I think with the emerging platforms and where to look, and this is not in any way an endorsement, but Clubhouse and Discord are gaining a lot of traction, and TikTok continues to be a major player. And I think one of the key things to look at is what is the user experience on those platforms, and how is it perhaps more in service to the creator and less in service to the advertiser or to the legacy business model that Facebook and and the ad-based, click-based marketplaces are based on. So, but I also think that Clubhouse and TikTok and to a lesser degree Discord, they're not necessarily looking to do anything new. They're just looking to capture more market share. So a lot of the same issues are going to emerge with those companies because they fundamentally don't necessarily see a different experience. They're still looking to compete and monetize in the same way. And then remind me the second half of your question. Oh, I got it. Now I'm remembering. Within an organization, designers, historically have been marginalized because people don't understand what they do, and it's not always the case that all design is the same. And the same holds true with content creators. So part of the key with design is, and what I say to students at ArtCenter who are looking at making a choice between one company and another as to where to work, is what is the culture like within the team that you're working on, and are they supported? Are they do they continue to be grow, and is there a kind of a thesis or a value statement about what that role and what that particular vertical within the company is, and you can see it up front at a company like Apple, right? And it's missing at some of the competitors. So looking at the story they tell about their creative teams is going to be a good indicator of that. And if they're not talking about it, or if it's somehow buried behind layers of other things, it's a signal, I think, of that it will be a heavier lift.
Yeah, thank you. And just one other question, clarification. Are you recommending like creator-based platforms because it leads to more conversion for like the company, or because people don't feel like it's as like addy or spammy?
Yeah, I think everything that allows you to distill your message and the core values of your business directly to the audience that you're trying to communicate. If there's layers of barriers to that, like how many ads do you get in your Instagram feed is a good example of how hard it is to connect with that audience. And there are, Clubhouse, for example, is going directly towards those communities of experts and audience members. And there isn't something in between. And that's kind of where I would look as to how to prioritize it. But of course, you can't throw away the legacy platforms yet, because we haven't fully made this transition, and they do play a major role. But I would look at the relationships that you can derive that have deeper value and are more personal, and perhaps a smaller number of them, that the large number of followers or likes or impressions is less valuable than the authentic connections.
Thank you.
Hey, Preston.
Yeah, so content is so relative. My dad makes a product for his living. He makes surfboard fins, and
Cool.
he has an actual product that needs content around it, because surfers are very storyteller based. They're out there in the world surfing, and they can give a real review on how that fin worked, because fins work differently depending on what type of wave you're surfing, where you are in the world, how the type of board is. And I'm thinking about the content generated on, like, say, Instagram. My dad uses Instagram for his company, and where that shows up in the logarithm or in the user feed, and how even in TikTok or anything where there's like kind of intelligence behind it, how the content relates to your customer. How do you think the future of that content around products as a creative could be best utilized for the marketing of those products, in terms of getting customers really to feel like they're being heard? Because I think what you talked about was important. The customer not feeling like the business cares about their needs. So just making another Coke bottle or whatever it may be. But how do you think that content generated around a particular, like, my dad's very creative. He makes innovative products and he's been in business for years. How does that actual content created by the customer and that business relationship really thrive, where the feedback, because even in business and buildings or anything like that user experience is so valuable to a business.
Right. And I'm a surfer myself. Fins
Right.
are complex and
I
hard to
got surfboard
understand.
back here. Back
Right.
spot.
So in that instance, I think that there's a huge amount of value in the direct relationships with the surfers who
Right.
know and understand the nuance of the fins that he creates,
Right.
and the stories that they can tell, which in a typical sponsorship way you'd give a fin to a Kelly Slater, and then Kelly Slater would write about it or say, he'd make a comment about it. I think dialing that up a step and not relying necessarily on going through the platform, but going from surfer to surfer. So you're out in the lineup,
Right.
in the waves or at the beach or in a parking lot, and you're starting to look at where those relationships are formed and where the potential is for new customers. So I would say that, you again, keeping
Pretty
yourself
organic
relevant, right? And what can you do to kind of accelerate those organic connections? And maybe that is by advertising on Instagram that you're in, that the surfboard company, the fin company,
Right.
is looking for relationships between surfers and their communities. Right. You can kind of take the step further to bring it into the real world and off of the platform. And I think it's a great example of something that's not intuitive. How do you know how to choose a fin when you don't really know what the characteristics of making a fin are all about? And it's not an obvious thing. I think that's a huge opportunity space.
Right. But it can relate to a lot of products in general, like not knowing how certain products perform when you're trying to, even like what Bill said about medical devices, like why choose your medical device over another? Like maybe there was organic content created by a couple individuals, like, hey,
right. And it's about trust and about verified relationships. So you trust somebody that surfs at the spot that you surf, or understands the type of wave or the type of dynamic. And I think that holds true.
That's kind of built into the content created.
Right, exactly. But more importantly, to the relationships between the pro users and the networks that they are a part of.
Right. Because my dad does give products to pro surfers, and they test it out and they write reviews. I'm just wondering, how that more that content feedback, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting case. It's very niche, but it's exactly where this conversation is going, is that the surfers themselves are actually the best mechanism
Yeah,
to
they're
sell
creating
the
the
product.
content. Yeah, because
Exactly.
they're like, hey, we use True Aim's fins when we surf, I don't know, wherever, and
right.
Let's talk about it on Instagram. How did this bonzer perform compared to a twin fin or something.
Exactly.
All right. That's
We're
good.
we're a little bit over, but if does anyone have, we'll do one more. We have one more question. Max, go ahead.
Yeah, this is just like a kind of a naivete that I have. Is like early on, especially pre-product or just building the product, you only have like maybe one or two people, like co-founders, they can work on the product. It's more like code, talk to customers, and exercise. And then you talk to different people, they just tell you like day one, you need to start working on culture. Day one, you got to start working on like design. Like we kind of find ourselves like disoriented. Like truly, at what point do you think we should start thinking like about design and content? Is this day one really, or is this like a little bit further along the way?
I would argue in exactly the same way that you think about legal. So you're going to build in the appropriate agreements and contracts and structures legally for your business in order to protect yourself and ensure that you can operate and grow and keep the founding partners on track and incentivized. And I think that this is true for, I would say, mostly product and consumer-based businesses. If you're building something that really doesn't have a large number of customers, if like say it's built for DARPA or for one customer, you might not necessarily need to do this. But the core sort of mindset shift is that design isn't just the end product or the end website or the sort of skin on your business, but it's the actual infrastructure that produces that. So how are you working together? How are you engaging your customer? How are you bringing insights, capturing research, designing surveys, creating the materials around those surveys and insights? And if you build that capability into the core of your business, you're going to be able to grow that capability as you need it. What tends to happen is, and it's like always the case, is that it's typically a business person and a technical person that are the founders, and they want to keep as much ownership and pay, and they have little money, so they want to pay as little as possible and keep as much ownership and go as long as they can in order to be able to then have a successful, growth pattern. The problem with that is that it becomes too little too late, because you've built up all of these legacy systems that don't necessarily have a fluid integration and design sensibility, a way in which those things connect. And you end up trying to hire somebody, and then you're competing for technical talent. You're competing with Apple and Google, who can pay $150,000 salary for a graduate student coming out of one of the premier programs. And a startup can almost never afford that. So you want to incentivize the contribution at the earliest founding level, because that allows you to then grow and scale effectively. And happy to reach out offline. Happy to provide any advice on that for your business as you go, because it's typically the case that businesses get it wrong and they say, oh, well, we don't want to invest in that yet. And then they build something that doesn't work, and then they can't afford the cost to change it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're a little bit over. Thank you very much, Robbie, for getting us off to a great start this school year. Let's give him one more round of applause.